Sitting on the park bench, eyeing little girls with bad intents. Hey, Aqualung, drying in the cold sun, watching as the pretty Peggy.
After Mega Man 8, the classic Mega Man series took a bit of a hiatus, with the exception of Mega Man and Bass for the Game Boy Advance. Mega Man was still busy though, with installments from various other spin-off franchises, Mega Man Legends, Mega Man Battle Network, and of course Mega Man X, which was still in continuation at the time. The classic series had seemed to run its course, and it didn't seem like there were plans to bring it back. However, after an 11-year breather from the series, Capcom announced that it would be releasing Mega Man 9 as a downloadable game for the PSN Network, WiiWare, and Xbox Live Arcade. On top of that, it would be in 8-bit form to mirror the roots of the series, and it would only cost $10. Needless to say, I shit my pants when I found this out, partly because I did not see it coming at all, and partly because I'm a huge fan of the series, particularly the 8-bit games, and aside from the hack ROMs, there hadn't been any official 8-bit Mega Man games in 15 years, so I was really excited to see what would come out of it. Although it's a downloadable game and many liberties could have been taken, this truly feels and looks like an NES game. Everything from the graphics and animation to the fact that only 4 tracks of audio can be heard at the same time, everything was done intentionally to give you the genuine feel of the classic games. There's no HD or any of that shit. They probably could have pressed actual NES cards of this game if they really wanted to, minus the online high scores of course. Speaking of keeping ties to the roots of the series, the ability to slide and charge up the Mega Buster has been scrapped, bringing things back to the way it was in Mega Man's 1 and 2. Now, I personally have no problem with the Mega Buster getting shit canned. I always thought it was too powerful as your regular weapon, and it made the special weapons weaker by comparison and less needed, but the slide could have stayed. One thing they brought back is the traditional Rush Coil, which we hadn't seen in 8-bit form since Mega Man 4, and the Rush Jet. Rush Marine is still in the junkyard. Another return that is most welcome is the traditional format of 8 Robot Masters to choose from right from the get-go. None of that fucking 4 at a time Bush League bullshit. This is how it should be. It gives you more variety as to what order you want to choose the stages, and it adds to the challenge of finding the right weapon to use on a specific Robot Master when there's more choices. Speaking of challenge, one thing that was pretty notable when this game came out was the difficulty. I think this was more of a reaction to the first couple of times played through each of the stages because really, I don't see what all the fuss is about. Don't get me wrong, I think it's more difficult than most of the Mega Man games. There are a decent amount of narrow spaces to fit into between spikes, long jumps to make, and gimmicky trial and error puzzles and traps. But really, when you break it all down and you've played through the whole game, it isn't much harder than your standard Mega Man game. In terms of difficulty, I think it rivals Mega Man 2 in difficult mode, and trails only Mega Man 1, and that game had more of a cheap difficulty. Mega Man 9 is a little more polished. Like I said earlier, this truly feels like an NES Mega Man game. The great gameplay, controls, level design, and graphics, for 8-bit of course, are all there. And since it's 8-bit, if we're looking at this from the point of view as a successor to Mega Man 6, then this is definitely a huge improvement. For one thing, the series was getting tired at that point. It was the 6th game in a 7-year span. The grueling pace was taking its toll, and the games weren't bringing much new to the table. Mega Man 9 follows the formula of the previous games, but adds a few spices to freshen up things a bit without ruining anything. For one thing, there's a lot of creativity in the level design. I mean, at its base, it's a lot like the old games, but there are a lot of interesting and quirky little spots you'll run into. It's more eccentric than the previous 8-bit Mega Mans, but it's also not too far over the top where you don't feel like you're playing a Mega Man game at all. Another interesting change of pace is the first ever female Robot Master, Splash Woman. And while in the old games you might have only used half the special weapons because some of them sucked, in Mega Man 9 they're all really useful and very different from each other. There may be no Metal Blade, but this might be the best overall weapon package from the Mega Man franchise. No Mega Man game would be complete without a great soundtrack, and the composers did a terrific job of making the game not only sound exactly as if it were 8-bit, but also bullseyed the Mega Man style in terms of the music. It was great to hear new Mega Man songs hit the catalog. For me, it can be compared to one of your favorite bands getting back together after being broken up for over a decade, and putting out an album that's awesome. There's also some bonus material that can be downloaded, like Proto Man mode, where you get to play as Proto Man, which is fucking awesome to be able to say. As Proto Man, you'll take twice the damage Mega Man does, which is odd because he has a shield, but he can slide and charge up the Mega Buster, or Proto Buster I guess in this case. Other downloadable content includes Time Attack mode, where you can go through any stage of the game with all weapons included and beat the stage as fast as possible without dying, and the fastest times are stored on an online leaderboard. Then there's the Endless Attack mode, which is a quote-unquote endless stage. You'll make a run through various mini-stages specially designed for this mode in random order, battling enemies you see throughout the game including the Robot Masters. The object is to complete as many screens as possible before finally dying, with these totals also showing up on an online leaderboard. A few months after the game came out, I was at number 14 with 691 screens. It's 3 years later and I'm still in the top 50 at least. The other category where the online rankings are kept is the total time it takes you to beat the game. Other add-ons include a special stage and additional difficulty adjustments. One feature that was included in the game that wasn't in any of the 8-bit games is the shop, which you can access at the stage select screen. There are 10 items you can buy in the shop, all of which cost you screws. They're not bolts this time around. The screws are found throughout the stages. The small screws are worth 2 screws, and the large ones are worth 20. The large ones you'll only find planted in specific spots of the stages, while the small ones you'll get mostly from enemies you've defeated, and sometimes they're planted like the large ones. The items you can buy are extra lives, which are self-explanatory, 20 screws each, and you can hold 10. Then there's E-Tanks. Any Mega Man fan knows it replenishes all your health, 30 screws each, and you can hold 9 of these. Mystery Tanks, which replenish all your health and weapon energy. It essentially gives you an extra E-Tank and then some, 50 screws each, and you can only hold 1. The Eddie Call, where you can summon Eddie Flip-Top to bring you a random item, 50 screws each, and you can only use it once. I don't recommend bothering with this at all. The best items are E-Tanks and Extra Lives, which are both cheaper than Eddie. If he were worth 5 screws, then he'd be worth it, but 50 screws? Screw that. The Beat Call will save you from falling down a pit. It can only be used once, 50 screws. The Energy Balancer will automatically restore your weapon with the lowest amount of energy when you pick up a weapon capsule with no weapons equipped. It really comes in handy later on in the game when you have a lot of weapons. It costs 100 screws. The Guard power-up cuts the damage you take in half. You can only use it for one particular stage upon selecting it, but you won't lose its use until you get a game over or finish the stage. It costs 100 screws. The Shock Guards will protect you from death after hitting spikes. It can only be used once and costs 50 screws. The Roll costume is a complete waste. All it does is change her costume for cutscenes. If it were 20 screws or something like that, then whatever, you can blow 20 screws on that. But 200 screws? Fuck that shit. The Book of Hairstyles is 20 screws, and it removes Mega Man's helmet, which will also cause Mega Man to take twice the damage he normally takes, so this is really a handicap if you want a challenge. And you can buy the helmet back for 20 screws if you change your mind, which essentially means you're spending 40 screws on nothing. For the walkthrough, I'm not going to tell you when to buy specific items. It'll be up to your judgment to decide which items are more important to you. So when you start the game up, you'll get a briefing on the game's story. The world is at peace now that Mega Man has ended Dr. Wily's plans again, but then 8 robots that Dr. Light created start wreaking havoc across the globe, and apparently this time Wily has nothing to do with it. He gets on TV and plays back a video recording of Dr. Light asking Wily to join him in world domination, which he refuses. Wily sets up a bank account to accept donations so he can finish his robots that'll stop Dr. Light. Mega Man knows this is all bullshit. We know what that donation money is really going towards. So Mega Man sets off to take down the robots. First, select Galaxy Man. Early on, you'll find a small screw behind this mech. That's right, the old school hard hats from Mega Man 1 that don't move have returned. Then you'll be introduced to a couple recurring themes. These purple teleporters that'll spit you up after switching from one to the other, and then these tweezers that will drop down, clamp onto you, and drag you quickly across the floor. There's no danger of it here, but then right after, this one will try to drag you across these spike pits. You can jump over them, but you have to react quickly. So to avoid this potential death, slowly creep up on these spots. So they'll drop in front of you, and then you can freely walk. If you get dragged to the edge, watch out for the spikes near the far wall below. Then you'll find more of these purple teleporters. Enter them in this order here. And then these green globs will float around, but shooting them causes them to break off into smaller versions. Shoot them to get some potential power-ups. Shoot down another one of these here to make room, and use the rush coil to grab the extra life up here. Watch out for another dropping tweezer here. You don't want to get dragged into the spikes. At the home stretch is another series of purple teleporters. First, swing yourself this way to grab the screws down here, then go back through this one and go back and forth through the others, and you'll find yourself at the gate of Galaxy Man. He'll float around in the air and send his black hole bomb down at you. It stops down near the floor and activates, trying to suck you in. Run away from it and Galaxy Man will teleport to the floor underneath it. Turn around to shoot him, but turn back quickly to run away so you don't get sucked in. When he drops straight to the floor without the black hole, jump over him when he swings over and turn to shoot him some more. Eventually you'll take him out and get the black hole bomb. This weapon is interesting. When you first fire it, you can control where it goes. It won't do any damage from here, but then pressing the fire button again will activate it. It'll stay in one spot and suck in any enemies that are affected by the weapon, which is a great deal of enemies in the game, so it really comes in handy a lot, but unfortunately it drains a lot of weapon energy. After defeating Galaxy Man, or whichever robot you defeat first, you'll get a cutscene where Mega Man returns home and Roll and Auto tell Mega Man that the police have arrested Dr. Light. Jewel Man is next. These minecarts shift back and forth, and after killing them, debris will fly out at both sides, so keep a safe distance when attacking them. When dealing with these spider bots, stand just close enough to them without being directly underneath them, and they'll drop, then take them out. Then you'll swing across these suspended beams. Run back and forth to get them to swing further and give you a closer jump to the next beam. Just watch out for the spikes lined up against the wall here. Aim directly at the gate. No, it's not already the gate to the boss, just a mini-boss. A series of boulders will fall from the ceiling. Keep your eye on the ceiling to see where they're coming from and run to dodge them. Then when the one with the eyes falls, jump before it hits the ground and then shoot at it to jump over it. If it lands while you're still standing there, it'll rock the ground and you'll be frozen, allowing it to crush you. Repeat the process until it's done and you can move on. These pricks will pop out of the first two pits here just as you get there, so don't jump over them until you take them out. Then after riding another of these beams, make a careful jump between these spikes into the narrow gap. You'll need Hornet Man's weapon to get the items down there, so if you want them you'll have to come back later if you're on a splurge for screws. Here's another tricky situation with one of the beams. You have to swing this thing to the side enough to get through the narrow gap below, but you can't swing it too far or you'll put yourself in danger of hitting the spikes against the wall. Not long after that is Jewel Man. He has a very simple pattern. He'll encase himself in a shield weapon, the Jewel Satellite, and run towards you. Throw the black hole bomb at him, which will harm him whenever he crosses it. When you jump, he'll jump, so make short jumps when he gets close and run under him. He'll fire some jewels at you, but as long as you have the black hole out there, they'll get sucked up and Jewel Man won't be a problem. The Jewel Satellite is probably the most effective shield weapon Mega Man has ever had. It wards off a great deal of enemies, and it will stay activated until you advance to another screen. It does take a decent amount of weapon energy down, but it's a good shield. Plug Man is next. This large screw at the beginning is inaccessible. Even with the Hornet Chaser, it won't work, and in Proto Man's mode, it's not even there, so I don't get this shit. If anyone has any answers, feel free to mention them. Then we've got the trademark appearing blocks. Don't follow your instincts and try to go up here. Instead, slip down here and follow the rest of the blocks. Then follow the blocks up here to a large screw and an extra life. Just be careful above the spikes. These static screens in the background will summon a Mega Man doppelganger that will follow you. Jump over these screens if you can to avoid the clone, then follow these blocks to get by. Just watch the off-timed pattern, and the block that appears directly above you here. Using the black hole bomb on these energy balls that follow the perimeter of the platforms will keep them from distracting you as you jump across the blocks. This pattern is a bit tricky. Follow it like so. Now head this way and collect these power-ups. The clone is mandatory, but worth it. Using the Jewel Satellite here is a good idea to clear the hamburger bots and prevent them from being a distraction as you take on the blocks. Plus you can wait around and get some power-ups, including a weapon recharge to ensure a full Jewel Satellite bar, which you'll need in the battle with Plug Man, which is up next. His floor design makes movement a bit strange, and makes it harder to keep track of his plug ball weapon, which follows the perimeter of the room. Equip the Jewel Satellite and it shields you from the plug balls and hurts Plug Man, but as soon as you hit him, re-equip the satellite cause you'll be close to him each time and you may get hit by a plug ball. Keep it going and he'll be finished and you get the plug ball. It does the same thing as it does in your battle with Plug Man. It follows the floor. It's not a very powerful weapon, but you get a good rapid rate and they don't drain much weapon energy. Choose Tornado Man next. These pink balloon guys will float around and fire single shots at you. When you shoot the face, it'll die, but otherwise it sputters about, so dodge it if this happens, or you can kill it on the rebound. These spinning platforms will glide across the chains, and when you land on it, you'll spin with it, and depending on the direction you're on vertically, you'll either jump or slip off. So keep your eye on where you are as well as your surroundings when you hop off. If you need to adjust your position, you can jump continuously to manipulate where you'll be when the next platform arrives. Later on, it'll start snowing and the ground will be iced, so be careful with your footing when you're near the spikes. The Sniper Joes return. They're sort of a hybrid from Mega Man's 1 and 2. They'll jump and fire shots, only a lot more in one stream, but they stay in one spot. Wait for it to retract its shield and shoot him down. Now it's raining and the wind will push you back. Be sure to get as close to the edge as you can when making your jumps. Remember that the clouds in these spots are actually hiding a small platform you can use as a safe spot, and watch the umbrellas that come down. Then the wind is blowing the other way, so your jumps will be longer. Keep that in mind. Use the rush coil to get up here and grab the extra life, and then watch your jumps the rest of the way. This large screw here seems like a trap, as there's no real clear way out, but you can call for Rush to land right on the platform if you jump out of the way in time and get the hell out of there. Tornado Man has 3 narrow rows of spikes on the ceiling. He doesn't do much besides float around the room and call for the tornado blow to emerge from below. Try to dodge the tornadoes, and when he's right against the wall or ceiling, fire several shots of the plug ball anywhere and it'll catch up to him. Concentrate mainly on avoiding the tornado blow, and it won't be long before you take him out. You'll get the tornado blow from him, which also sends tornadoes from below and affects enemies it comes into contact with, which can wipe everything out on the screen, but it does drain a good amount of weapon energy. You'll notice after killing Tornado Man that you'll get a piece of scrap metal from him. A cutscene follows where Otto explains that he inspected it and determined that the robot's period of use had expired and was about to be scrapped. This cutscene happens after defeating the 4th Robot Master. It isn't necessarily always Tornado Man. Magma Man is next on your hit list. These guys firing streams of fire will stop and shoot. Try to stand on the far edge of the platform so you don't get hit. Then watch out for these beams of fire. They'll destroy you in one hit. The arrow up top will flash right before it shoots, so keep your eye on that before you pass. Then you'll encounter a mini-boss with the dragon. He'll fly around and spit fry guys to the ground, which then coast across the floor, so jump over them, and then jump again as another will follow, and then fire at the head of the dragon to eventually kill it. Carefully slip between these flame beams, and this energy capsule may seem like a trap, but you can escape from here with the rush coil, providing of course you time your jump right and not hit the fire beam. Shortly after this is Magma Man. He'll fire large bursts of flame in spread shot formation, and the weird layout of his room can make it harder to line up your shots. So use the tornado blow. You won't be able to take him out completely, but you'll get most of his energy depleted. Then finish him off with the arm cannon. You'll get the Magma Bazooka, which is a spread shot of flames. It can target multiple areas at once, it doesn't take way much weapon energy, and you can charge it up like Heatman's atomic fire weapon. You'll also get Rush Jet here, or whenever you defeat the 5th Robot Master. Pick Hornet Man next. There's a large screw up here you can get with the rush coil, but you have to be careful with the angle so you don't smack the spikes. Then these shears show up and then come right back. Jump over the first ones, and then just stand here and let the next ones go. These machines will spit balls at you, but you have to shoot them first. Do it and then move out of the way so they can clear a path for you and get this screw. Then head down this way using the same method and shoot immediately so you can get the extra life over here. Then do the same so you can get through the center, and then you'll have a mini boss battle with a flower. Yeah, that's right, a fucking flower. It'll pop out of one of these 8 platforms and shoot its petals at you and then retreat. Meanwhile, you have to keep yourself ahead of this chain of blades or whatever this thing is. Unfortunately, the best weapon of use here is the Hornet Chaser, but you obviously can't use that yet. So for now, use the Magma Bazooka, and when you finish it off, a path will be cleared for you to move on. Hop on these platforms and shoot at the weird shape on the end to extend it. But don't take too long because it'll close up and you're fucked. So move quickly and watch out for the shears. Hornet Man is soon after that. He'll fly straight up in the air and send 3 Hornets after you. Use the Magma Bazooka to blast him and the Hornets, and he'll drop down and run across the room. Jump over him and shoot as he passes. Repeat until he's dead. The Hornet Chaser is, well, a hornet that chases. It'll automatically target enemies, and it'll also grab power-ups for you, particularly from the enemies it kills and from impossible or hard to reach places. Only 2 to go. Next one is Splash Woman. Just about the entire level is underwater. These bombs at the beginning are dormant at first, but once you get close enough, they'll spring to life and try to follow you before exploding. You can run past them and try to avoid their wrath, or you can use the black hole bomb on them to get rid of them before they can even activate. Shoot the octopi in the head when they pop out of their shell, and then when you fall down here, get to the side as quickly as possible to avoid the spikes in the middle. There's an extra life on the left side, so that's the preferred choice, although if you miss, you can still slip between the spikes with a careful jump. Then there's a fork. The right side has a health capsule and less spikes to dodge, so go that way. Remember the bubble rides from Wave Man's level in Mega Man 5? Well, this part is very similar to that. In fact, the next screen up is exactly the same, where you gotta jump from the big bubble to the two smaller ones and then back to the big one on the left so you don't hit the spikes. This time though, there are these fish that come torpedoing their way towards you. Shoot them to clear a path first. Then hop across the bubbles again to get the large screw, and then take the jet across. You'll have to go back to the bottom and ride the bubbles again to move on if you don't have the jet. These platforms will shoot out of the wall and the water level inside will drain and then it explodes. So you have to time your jumps accordingly. The first one is pretty self-explanatory. Then on the next one, use the rush coil to land on the top platform when it pops out and grab the ladder. The third one is pretty intimidating. Use the rush coil before the first platform gets level with you and land on the third one. Then follow the rest of them to the ladder. Splash Woman will summon a school of fish with her flute as she floats to the top. Stay at the bottom so the fish don't come into contact with you, dodge her laser trident, and send hornet chasers after her. All you have to worry about the whole time is dodging the tridents. When you take her out, you'll get the laser trident, which is fucking awesome. It tears up just about everything in its path, you get a good rapid rate, and it doesn't drain much weapon energy. It's definitely the best weapon in the game. Concrete Man is the only one left. Shoot the rocks that these birds drop. They'll explode into debris that can harm you after hitting the ground. Then don't rush your jumps over these pits. These guys will pop out and fire to either side. Shoot them down. These annoying things will roll across the ground and pick up speed when you're level with them. Use the black hole bomb to get rid of these pests. These elephants will send a ball your way with its trunk and then suck it back. Just use the ladder to stay above it and shoot. But there's no ladder on the next one and the ball bounces a couple times. Keep your distance so you can jump over the slow bounce, then shoot rapidly and retreat to jump back over it when it comes back. Keep your distance so he doesn't pull you into him. The third elephant is back to a non-bouncy ball, but there are a couple of narrow pits in the way, so stay back and be careful when you jump. Use the Hornet Chaser to get this energy capsule if you need it, and use the coil to get up here and grab a large screw. Some of the blocks above the spikes here are fake, you'll just fall right through. The ones with the 4 circles are fine, the ones with the squares you'll want to avoid. You'll run into more of these throughout the stage. These plant-looking things will fire 2 shots out of its head downward. If you stand directly underneath them, you won't get hit. These platforms will move up or down off the screen depending on the direction the arrow is facing. Jump quickly off the down ones, and let the up ones take you up higher before you jump to the next one and you'll arrive at the gate. Concrete Man will fire his concrete shot at you, which will turn you into a statue if hit. And then he'll charge, which does considerable damage. He'll also jump up high and crash into the ground, which knocks you on your ass, setting you up for another charge. Jump to avoid this, and try to dodge the concrete shots to prevent these attacks, and fire the laser trident at him until he dies. The concrete shot is a short-range weapon that doubles as an attack and also a block that can be used as a platform to get past spikes and shit. So then you'll get a cutscene where Otto takes the memory circuit board you retrieved from the last robot master you defeated and plays back the video from its memory bank, which shows Dr. Wily convincing the 8 robots that he can give them repairs and a purpose to live after their expiration date, proving that he was behind the rampage all along. Big surprise there. Wily manages to sneak into the lab with his little ship and takes the memory board back, and now it's on to another Skull Castle. Now, I'm a bit surprised they didn't go with a Dr. Light Castle here before the Skull Castle. It would have been real interesting to see what it would have been, but at the same time, I'm glad they made 4 good levels as opposed to 8 watered down levels. Also, unlike the post 8-bit Mega Man games, the weapon energy you have left carries over into the next Wily Stage, just like the good old days. So try to fill up whenever you can, and by this point buying the energy balancer is a very good idea. Use the laser trident against these guys. It'll rip right through the shields. Use the tornado blow to send this platform up high enough to grab the ladder. There'll be a few more of these throughout the level, including right away here. Just be careful with your jump. Do it right after you get the thing moving so you don't hit the spikes on the ceiling. The Dragon mini boss returns, and now you can use the laser trident on it, which is more powerful than the armed cannon you had to settle on earlier. Use the Hornet Chaser to grab this extra life, and then you'll hit the horizontal flame beams that fry your ass. Use the rush coil to get by this one, and here your first reaction is, what the fuck do I do? The answer is, use the concrete shot to freeze up the beams, but they're only temporary, and you have to be pretty precise with your sequence of moves here. Freeze up the first beam, but you have to give yourself enough space to get back on the platform to jump onto it, and then head into the nook. Of course, you have to do this when the second beam is out of the way. Then freeze the second beam, but you have to wait for the third one to clear, so once it starts blinking, freeze it up again, and then the third beam will clear and you can move on. The ladder furthest to the left is the preference, as it leads to an E-tank. The Hornet Chaser won't be able to grab it. I guess the tanks are too heavy for it. Swing the beam here across the teleporter to take you to the ladder, and then use the rush jet to get across these spikes, and the first boss is just ahead. The 4 robots at the end of each row will spit out plasma shots that send the respective spike balls towards you. Your job is to knock the spike balls back at them. After each one gets hit, it'll be destroyed and replaced with another robot, and each time you'll drain some of its energy away. Touching the spike balls will kill you instantly, so get your ass away from them if it's getting close to your side. Also keep your eye on the triangular shaped shots that will bypass the spiked balls. That, as well as the spikes, are the only things that can kill you, so as long as you just stay aggressive and keep a rapid rate of fire, you should be fine. Now on to the second Wily Stage. Use the black hole bomb to get these pests out of the way, and the rush coil may be a good idea to get up here, because jumping can be tricky here. And you may find yourself climbing back up and using another black hole. The black hole bomb also wipes out these guys, which is a lot easier than shooting them and getting multiples. These film projectors will float by and flash a light down, which creates a phony block. If you manage to kill them first, you won't have to worry about it, although there's really no danger. On the next screen, they'll implant these phony blocks under the spikes, so when you attack this Sniper Joe, stay back. If you bump your head on the ceiling, you'll die. Same thing here. If you don't kill these things, watch out for where the fake blocks are, kill these blobs, and use the rush coil or jet to get across. Use the jet here to sneak by the spikes, and now you're battling this annoying flower again. Use the Hornet Chaser this time. Then you'll end up underwater. There's an E-tank at the end of the bottom path. Don't go that way unless you have enough juice on the rush jet. I don't really recommend trying to make all the small jumps. E-tanks are valuable though, so you may find it worth it to try. Use the laser trident against these fish. Then break this block and carefully slip down to grab the extra life. Then after breaking open this block, stand back here and fire off a concrete shot so you can land safely and pass by. There's more of these projectors here. Keep your eye on where they line up and jump across the real blocks. Then you'll climb up and down a set of some long ladders. When you get up top, fall to the far right to give yourself a shortcut to the top through this gap. And soon after is the boss. Weird how the gate is on the left side, that's never happened before. This boss is a big old ship with several forms. It'll fire missiles in the first form. Hitting its launching spot is your target. Use the laser trident here when it's low enough and dodge the missiles. Then after that you'll slip underneath and have to take out the belly. These little mini planes or some shit will plop out of these 2 compartments. Kill the little bastards, but the compartments they come out of is your main target to harm the ship. Use the Magma Bazooka here. It's effective enough, and you can take out both the planes and the compartment simultaneously without having to worry about jumping up and bumping your head on the ship, which hurts you by the way. After taking care of that, it's on to the third and final portion. The head of the ship will fire laser straight ahead the whole time while changing its vertical placement. Stay low and just fire off the Magma Bazooka, lining up your shots with the head. All you have to do is avoid the lasers when it gets down low enough and you'll be all set. The beginning of Stage 3 has this room where you slowly float to the ceiling and firing your gun will push you backwards, and you have to turn around and shoot the other way to slow yourself down, stop, or change direction. Watch out for the green and orange blobs. Your best bet is to not shoot them at all and try to float in between. Right after is another of these floaty rooms. This time there's more shit in the way, including spikes and one of these tweezers. Stay to the left to avoid it. Stay to the left, and when you get to the top, quickly shoot your way to the right to get through this gap. There'll be an M-tank waiting here if you don't have one already. 2 of these extra lives here are a trap. They're really just Mets hiding out. Only this one here is the real deal. Take short jumps here. The spikes on the ceiling aren't far from the floor, and when battling these guys, stay to the right side of the platform so if you get hit, you won't fall off the edge. The extra life down here is another trap, this one designed to get you killed right away, so don't fall for it. The boss is a pair of jello globs in opposite corners that exchange pieces back and forth similar to the yellow devil rock monster from previous games. All you can really do is get used to the patterns, jump over or sneak under the globs, and when the robotic eye thing comes out, hit it with the black hole bomb quickly. Make sure it's activated and then keep dodging the rest of the globs. Once they're done exchanging parts, they'll swap spots and start all over again. Keep count, cause the eye will come out on the 11th exchange every time. Be patient and careful, and when you finish it off, it'll be just one more stage left. First, fill up on weapon energy if you need it, and you'll find several of these laser barricades which you can block temporarily with the concrete shot. But just plow through this shit. Doesn't matter if you get hurt, just run right through them. Unless of course you're running out of health, which you shouldn't be. The reason for sacrificing all this health is because you're gonna get it back anyway. Right here, if you just keep going back and forth at this spot, the Met will respawn and you can just keep doing this over and over and over again until you replenish your health and weapons. It's tedious and kinda cheap, but you'll be glad you did it, unless you're going for a speed run. So once you're done, now use the concrete block to give yourself a boost up here and use the Hornet Chaser to get this extra life. And soon after that is the Robot Master rematch room. Go through the robots in the order of personal preference. Try to go for the easier battles if you're lower on health, and try to save your E-tanks. Remember, you get an energy capsule every time you defeat a Robot Master here. Use the same weapons you used before, only this time use the concrete shot on Galaxy Man. When you're done, go through the new portal and get ready for Wily and his dinosaur ship. In his first form, he'll shift back and forth and spit out huge dinosaur eggs. Shoot them with the arm cannon back at him, and if they explode in his face, it'll damage the ship. Pretty simple strategy, just make sure you stay directly in front of the egg and shoot at all times. When you drain all of its energy, Wily's second form surfaces. Now he'll hover and shift back and forth. Once he stops, get your ass to the other side cause he drops, doing considerable damage. So try to stay under the center of the ship so you can get to either side quickly, although he usually drops on the right. Then it'll spit out fire in a reverse arc pattern. Jump over it and fire at Wily with the Magma Bazooka. You can get him with straight shots when he's down low, and your diagonal shot can catch him when he's up high. When you drain his energy down, it's onto the third and final form. And once again, the final boss involves Wily in a small ship which disappears, reappears, and fires shit at you before disappearing again. He has two attacks. The first one is 2 sets of sparks. 3 each move in one direction before crossing paths. Try to jump between them, or you can use the black hole bomb to suck this shit in. Then the other is 4 balls of energy that spread and then stop and change direction in mid-air. These are a bit more unpredictable, but you can guess the pattern easier if you run as far away from them as you can before having to make your move. You'll be able to see them coming easier. The plug ball drains a decent amount of energy, and you can get multiple hits in before he disappears again. Unfortunately, you won't always be able to make the hits because he's way up in the air a lot, and you're going to have to fire at close range when he is down low. The Hornet Chaser works too, but it isn't nearly as effective, so I guess switch to this one when he's up high, and then switch back. When you finish him off, he'll drop the circuit board. Mega Man picks it up and chases him down until he has nowhere to go and begs again. Mega Man brings Rush in to reel off some film, showing all the times he did the exact same thing. Mega Man isn't having any of his bullshit this time. Wily tells him that the officer that took Dr. Light away was a robot he created and not a real officer, and that Light is in the next room right now and is sick and needs a hospital. Mega Man follows him into the next room where Light is sleeping, and Proto Man shows up saying that Wily is full of crap. This Dr. Light is the robot he used to make the video earlier. Mega Man feels that he can't risk this being the real Dr. Light, and Proto Man gets pissed and leaves. Mega Man tries to help Light, but is electrocuted. Turns out Proto Man was right. Wily sets off the self-destruct mode, gets the hell out of there, and Proto Man comes back to save Mega Man. Then the credits roll and each Robot Master gets a still shot of them now doing good for Dr. Light as originally intended. Mega Man 9 was a nice return to the roots of the series. By the time Mega Man's 5 and 6 had rolled around, the series was running out of steam and the games were only coming out a year apart. It was starting to wear thin. Mega Man 7 and 8 had evolved the series and freshened things up a bit, but by the time it had got up to 8, the classic series didn't fit too well on the newer consoles. At least that's how I felt. But 15 years since the last 8-bit Mega Man game was long enough of a breather to bring it back. There were enough sprinkles of new features and ideas combined with the old school homage to its predecessors to make this a very solid Mega Man game. And in my opinion, the best one since 3. And that wraps up this edition of Aqualung's Game Reviews. See you next time.